All right, well, we'll get going, we'll get started, and if anyone else wants to join, they can jump in as we go. So, once again, we are here with the book, The Motivation Manifesto by Brendon Burchard, 9 Declarations to Claim Your Personal Power. And today will be covering declarations 5 and 6. Just rather than go through in depth through a recap through the whole book again, has anyone got any reflections on what we've covered so far? Anything that's leapt out at you and made a dramatic difference, or any anecdotes or anything you want to report back to the group as to what we've covered so far?
I rewrote The Sword of Courage, and so I decided that my sword of courage is a feather, and it softly brushes away the doubt, delay, and this, division.
Yeah.
Replacing it with love, faith, and action. So I just didn't feel comfortable with the sword, so I changed it to a feather.
Awesome. I like that. It reminds me of Forrest Gump. You know, the start of Forrest Gump when the feather's floating down?
Yeah.
I just found out the other day, because it never occurred to me that how did they get that feather to do that? And I saw it on YouTube, and there's this guy dressed all in green, sitting, like, kneeling on the bench next to him, and he's actually holding the feather and moving it. So then they CGI'd him out of the picture afterwards. So that sort of shattered my illusions of that moment in the movie. But, sorry, I've shared that now. I've shattered it for all of you. You have to go back and watch the opening of Forrest Gump now and see.
Not really, because I like watching how they make movies, so I already knew that.
I didn't know how they did that one, so yeah, that was cool. It is fascinating, isn't it, Stan, how they make movies and what goes in and behind the scenes that you don't see. Oh, that's really cool, Wendy. A feather. That's very, very noble, and very, very peaceful. It's very good. V, have you had a chance to catch up with the book at all, or you've been reading it as well, or where are you up to?
I've been naughty.
Okay. That's why we sent her down south. She kept being naughty. That's all right. We'll fill you in as we go. Naughty V. So the naughty corner with you. All right. Oh, Coralie, you're looking a little bit guilty there.
Yeah, I'm just here for my certificate of participation.
Oh, good, because I'm in the same boat, so don't panic.
All right. I didn't even know I promised to send those out to people, but I'll make sure I do. Yeah. Well done. Well, that's good. Everyone's being honest this morning. Well, I honestly confess, just as we started, that I was frantically reading Declaration 6 again just before the meeting started. So that's why I actually got here about a minute or two late, didn't I, Coralie? As I was rushing to go through it again. I just got too tired late last night, and I had to go to bed. I was like, oh, I just can't do that one more chapter. It's not going to go in if I do. Sometimes you just have to listen to your body, don't you? So, Declaration 5. Well, do you know what Wendy was talking about there? Was it the sword of courage, you called it?
Yeah, it's in the last paragraph of defeating your demons.
Yes.
And it's talking about the sword of courage is overcomes defiance and the 3 beasts that make up defiance, which is doubt, delay, and division. I think it's division.
Excellent. There we go. So I knew someone would review it for me. That's good. I don't have to go through it all again now. Yes, we do. We are all hit with those terrible things, and yeah, he was coming up with the analogy of us having a sword of courage to have a much needed weapon against our internal terrors. Hey? And that all great people of history, all the heroes and leaders and innovators who lit humanity's way out of darkness and ignorance, forged within themselves the courage to overcome their internal conflicts when it mattered most. So that's what Wendy's referring to, and having writing down what are your doubts? What are the things that you're putting off doing, the delaying? And where are the things where you feel divided or in conflict, I suppose? Again, just, all these self-improvement books talk about the importance of reflection and journaling and writing down your thoughts and feelings about things, because it helps you to crystallize it, really get that clarity around what do you really want, what it is that's stopping you, and what do you need to do about it to change to get the results that you want. So that's the kind of common theme of most of these books, really. All right, we'll go on to was there anything else we wanted to add about Declaration 4? We shall advance with abandon. I love this quote: cowards die many times before their deaths, the valiant never taste of death but once. Bit of Shakespeare. Thought we'd throw in a bit of Shakespeare first thing in the morning, get everyone feeling all intellectual and highbrow, highfalutin, and educated, feeling like we know what we're talking about here. So yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? That we have to have that courage, a life of courage, action, and perpetual progress. So to reclaim our power, we must seek an immediate shift in our belief about how influential we can be in shaping our reality. Yes, shaping our own reality. That again, that recurring theme about taking responsibility for where you're at in life, that your decisions, everything that you've thought and decided upon has got you to this point in your life. And it's if you do that, where it might sometimes be easier to blame other people, the government, the world, the next door neighbor, the boss, the parents, the school teacher. There's all those people we could blame if we want to play the blame game. But if we take responsibility for ourselves and for where we're at in life, then it has great power that comes with it, because it also gives us then the power to make any changes that we want. If we got ourselves into this, we can get ourselves out of this, whatever the situation is. So there is that power, and everything we need to begin the great quest towards a free and fulfilling life is already within us. So that's what we need to tap into, is that inner knowing, that inner guide. That's what anyone ever read Gabby Bernstein's stuff at all? She's one of my favorite authors as well. And she calls it her ING, her inner guide. That's her abbreviation for it. She came up with it, tapping into your ING, listening to your ING, your inner guide. So inside what's right and wrong. And he says our destiny hinges on a mindset for bold action. Wow. You are responsible for your reality. Decide what you want of the world and go make it happen. Well, sounds simple, doesn't it? If it's all that simple, how come we're not all doing it? Or are we? Are we all doing it? Well, we're all here today. That's the starting point, isn't it? So, yeah, another bit that I just from the last chapter that I highlighted in orange, just as a quick recap. Let us remember that when we take action, an invisible force gathers all around us, pulling in opportunities that align with our purpose, propelling us with momentum to our freedom. Haven't you found that in life, that once you make a decision and you start acting towards it, then suddenly the people that you need to help you turn up, or the thing you need to read appears on your desk, or the YouTube video you need to watch suddenly turns up. And I know some of that, we joked about this. We were talking about building a gazebo in our garden the other day. And as soon as we started talking about it, the next thing that came up on Joe's Facebook page was pictures of gazebos and stuff. You think, they're listening to us. They're all listening to us. But don't you find in life generally, when you've made that decision,
it's Big Brother.
It's Big Brother indeed. Yes. But let's not go into that. Otherwise we'll all get paranoid and we'll be thinking, who's watching us here? Who's watching us? Who's listening? Well, hopefully we're all listening. So yeah, when I found this many times, when you make a decision and you really start working towards it, then suddenly things start conspiring. You start attracting. It's a law of attraction, isn't it? You're focused on it, and maybe sometimes they were always there, those things that you needed, but you just didn't see them. They were blowing past you like tumbleweed in a Western movie. You didn't see them because you weren't focused on it, you weren't looking. But now, once you're focused on it, suddenly it all comes into view. The right people turn up, the right things start to fall into place, because it's like the universe is rewarding you because you're taking action in pursuit of your dreams. Anyone relate to that? No one violently disagree with it?
I relate to it every day.
You don't have to agree with everything I'm saying, by the way. You can push back against me, but as long as you remember that I am always right, so it's fine. Okay, so V, you wanted to say something. Your hand is up in the air.
Yes and no, because I find that when I've made up my mind about something, things show up, but it's still, I still get roadblocks, and it just feels like hard work a lot of the time.
Yes, thank you for raising that. And I'll tell you why. Because as soon as you set a goal, the universe will test you. Like you decide you're going to lose weight, and the next door neighbor or the mum walks in with a piece of chocolate cake and says, "Oh, I've made this for you." What do? Isn't that true? The universe, whenever you have a really important goal, the universe will throw something at you to go, "Are you sure you're serious about this?" Go on, did I interrupt you? Do you have anything more to add to that?
That's what I was going to say. Are you sure? The universe is going, are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happens all the time, especially with diets.
Yeah. I also think that I've held myself back a little bit in the past because I get so focused on the how.
Yeah.
So if I set a goal, I'm already thinking of how I'm going to get there, but I don't have the skills yet. And I just have to trust that along the way, I'm going to pick up the how. I don't need to know the how right now.
That's interesting. I just had a slight, not exactly a disagreement. Well, I suppose it's like a heated agreement, should we say, with Joe the other day, because I think maybe it's a man thing. Men, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. You've read John Gray's book. Joe seems to have these grandiose schemes that she comes up with, and I go, well, yeah, but because if we do that, we're going to have to consider this, and we're going to have to take that into account. She's like, why do you do that? So, why to do what? I'm just thinking through how we're going to make happen what you want us to do. And so I immediately start working on the how, and it annoys her because she just wants to keep focused on the why, on the dream, Don't come up with all these objections and reasons why we can't do it or things we've got to consider. Just, revel in we've decided we're going to do this. I'm like, well, but you're going to need to overcome that issue. So I'm just bringing it up because we're going to have to do it. I'm not being negative. I'm just coming up with the things to consider. So I got in trouble for that anyway, because I was.
But we have decided? It sounds like Joe has decided and you're just trying to get on board.
Well, you know what they say, V, happy wife, happy life. Isn't that true, man?
You're bringing the chocolate cake to the diet.
Thanks, Carly. I'm going to remind Joe of that one.
But I'm on a chocolate diet, so that's perfectly fine.
That's good with me, Stan. I like that one. Excellent.
You're only allowed to eat desserts on days that end in T. Or either start with T.
Hang on.
Tuesday, Thursday, today, tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday.
Excellent. I was trying to think of what days end in T. A minute. Okay. Enough of this frivolity. Okay. So the higher we climb in life, the more we realize just how hard everyone has worked to achieve everything. They've all had to overcome these things, this doubt, this denial, this procrastination, this "are you serious" test from the universe. You know that old cliched expression that people are an overnight success? No one's ever an overnight success, are they? Really? Because everyone's had to work in some way, shape or form to get to where they are. And they've all been they've all had to overcome these inner demons of self-doubt and you know, that sort of am I good enough kind of test, or other people saying, oh, do you really think you're up to this? Even when we were buying this house that I'm in right now, my sister immediately was like, oh, I didn't take you two for gardeners. Are you sure you want to, you know, she came up within about 10 minutes, she came up with about 20 reasons why we shouldn't buy this house. But that's my sister for you. She just did have a tendency to dwell on the negatives, shall we say. But maybe she was just being the universe. She was just trying to be helpful and throw a few of these tests. We're going to talk about family.
I've just had an aha moment, actually. So yeah, so there are hard things to do to get there, but it's what you need to do to grow so that you can be what you need to be to get your goal.
Yep, absolutely.
So be grateful for the tests.
You got your money's worth this morning already then.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So what else? Well, yeah, he did say, he went on saying in that last chapter that that struggle is to be expected and honored. We must remember that the power to direct our destiny comes only from a mindset that makes us willing to struggle through learning, effort, and growth. Exactly what you were saying there, V. We have work to do, influence to gain, service to render, power to share, freedom to achieve for our loved ones. So let us advance and begin great things now. That's where we were up to. And that's a pretty good starting point for today, isn't it? We're advancing, and now we're going to begin great things together. So Declaration 5, we shall practice joy and gratitude. Now, isn't that a recurring theme in all of these books? Gratitude. What do we start with? Being grateful for where we're at, grateful for what we have in our life, for who we have in our life. It is a recurring theme, no matter what challenges you're going through. Even if you're starving, hungry, and all you got is one morsel of bread, be thankful for that morsel of bread. If there's grey overcast sky, be thankful for the rain that's about to come, or, you know, be thankful for everything, because you can reframe anything, can't you? Anything that is going to upset you or cause you temporary inconvenience or stress, you can look at it a different way. You can look for the positives in things, in any situation. You have the power to change. And Tony Robbins summed it up by saying that nothing has any meaning except the meaning we attach to it. So what meaning are you attaching to things? Well, he goes on to ask these questions. You know, why don't we hear more laughter in life? Where is the energized, heightened, exhilarated pulse we would expect from such chosen people? Where is it, people? Where is it? It seems that a great tidal wave of cynicism and pessimism has washed ashore and drowned the dreams of our people. I think it was V a few weeks ago said he's almost evangelical, isn't he, in the way he speaks? He's certainly very emotive, and when you listen to him on the audio, he's even more so. I think that it rings through his words. I love this, and this is it must be a main aim of our lives to rekindle the magic of life. Now, this next sentence I have highlighted in orange, so you know, people, that's an important point. Not just yellow, this is orange, okay? Let us remember that life's purpose is to live freely, vibrantly, joyously, madly, consciously, lovingly, enthusiastically. There's our challenge for the day. Let's live like that today. So I'm living a bit madly this morning. The greatest of human freedoms is the ability to choose at any moment the palette of our emotional sky. Isn't that a great language? So well put. We alone activate the very energy and emotion through which we experience life. So in any given moment, anything that is peeing you off could be turned around, couldn't it? You could look at it, you can choose to look at it differently and go, okay, why is that person behaving like that towards me? Why did that person cut me off in traffic? Does it really matter? Am I going to let that ruin my day? Am I going to let my good tranquil mood be dominated by somebody else's actions? And how much does that really matter? That person's obviously in a rush to get somewhere. I'm not in such a rush. It's all good. We can change the way we're thinking and feeling about any situation that occurs. Now, granted, sometimes that's easy to say and not so easy to do. There's certain things, certain people that can really push the buttons, as we know. But we do still have that power within us. It's all really down to us. Here's another orange highlighted statement. Are you ready? There can be no mastery of life if we cannot transform the energy we feel at any moment into cheerful engagement and deep appreciation. So who wants to be cheerfully engaged? Yes, there's a couple of people waving hands and things. That's engagement, isn't it? Yes, we've got some engagement. Even Wendy's engaging as well. That's good. Very good. Okay, so the self-labeled realists will tell us this is impossible. There's always people who tell you why you can't do it. Now, just to clarify again, I was not telling Jo why she couldn't build the gazebo. I was just telling her the things that we needed to consider, like where the sewerage line went, things like that. You know, that if you're going to start drilling holes, which you wanted to extend our decking, and that's going to involve putting a drill down into create holes, put a post, a supporting post for the structure into the hillside. Just consider where the sewer line runs, so you don't go putting the hole down and rupture your sewer line at the same time. To me, that was a valid thing to consider in the whole construction process, and I raised it and got told I should shut up and stop coming up with negatives. So there you go. So we have to consider what is the agenda of the person. Are they trying to help us, or are they trying to be deliberately obstructive, or have they just got our best are they looking after us? They're trying to look after us, trying to protect us from stuffing it up or from failing or embarrassing ourselves. So we can acknowledge that person's opinion. We can thank them for their input, and then completely disregard everything they've said if we want to. So it's entirely up to us, isn't it? Or we can take it on board, and they might think of something we hadn't thought of. They might think, oh, you need to consider that you might rupture the sewer line or something like that. So who knows? Every situation is different. We're the one true commonality. It's every situation that includes us. We're the one that we can control. How are we going to respond? How are we going to think about this? How will we react? What we choose to do. Okay. Life can lose its vibrant aura and charm if we do not bend the energy of our minds towards positive engagement and appreciation. And so let us take back our focus and remember the riches. Joy is the jewel of life, gratitude the gold. There you go, the gold. Who doesn't want gold? All women want gold, don't they? And men. Everyone wants gold if they can get it. So take it back, focus and remember the riches. Be grateful. So he talks about people who are successful, no smoke, no mirrors, just those simple forces at work that sustain motivation, attention, and effort towards that which they desire. Again, that's another sort of theme that keeps popping up is, why don't we make things happen a lot of the time that we want to make happen? Why don't we fulfill a lot of the dreams or goals that we have? Well, a lot of that is we lose the motivation. We can't sustain it. We want it now, but then we get tested. If you want the six-pack perfect body like I've obviously got, you know that you've got to go to the gym or do some exercises or something, and you might go and join the gym. Anyone ever joined a gym and sort of gone for a couple of weeks or a couple of months and then, I'm over this, I can't be asked. I want that perfect body, but do I really want to keep going to this gym and driving there? And, the repetitive, see, for me, I can play team sports all day, but you know, if you give me a ball to chase or a ball to hit, I'm there. But get me on those machines, pumping things and lifting stuff, and I'm just so over this. I'm so bored with it. So if you ever watch, what's her name now? Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins talks about this, and I thought this was brilliant. It's a sidebar here to Brendon Burchard. It's on point, I promise. She said she made the decision. She wanted the flat tummy, right? She wanted the, maybe not a six pack, but she wanted the flat tummy at least, which most of us would like if we can have the flat tummy. But she made the realization that to get that, she was going to have to go to the gym every day and work out. And she was honest with herself. She went, let's be realistic here. I ain't going to do it. So I can set that as a goal, but what's the point if I'm not going to do the action that is going to be required to get there? So let's work out what I am willing to do. And so she could come up with her own program that no matter, because her schedule was, she was traveling all over the country to giving talks and, you know, press conferences and like launching her book and giving speeches and everything. She's like, well, I'm in a hotel room. I can't go to the gym. It's going to be too hard. And so she went, okay, what if I could just do, you know, 10 sit-ups a day or 10 push-ups or whatever in my hotel room? That's what I'll commit to. I'm not going to commit to something that I know full well I'm not going to do, because what's the point? All I'll end up is disappointed with myself and angry that I didn't do what it would take to get that result. But let's work out what I am willing to do and let's commit to that. So I thought that was pretty sound advice. What do you reckon on that? Yeah. Okay.
Tony, I think sometimes as well that maybe our little self-sabotaging little, the opposite to our inner guide sits on our shoulder and goes, you go and set that goal and you go and fail it, and then we'll prove that we're right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because there is that little demon in there, isn't there? That self-doubt demon that Wendy was talking about before, that will sit on your shoulder and will say, nah, you're going to stuff it up. I'm going to wait till you do, and then I'm going to go, ha, told you. So we know that that's part of that inner battle, is fighting those demons. We know that's going to come up. So this comes back, I suppose, to really wanting what you want, not just wishing for it. You know, do you really want this? And are you really willing to do what it's going to take to get it? So I think this comes back again to clarity, being clear about what your goals are, being clear about what your mission in life is, or being clear about what's going to make you happy. If you want the six-pack, but you know damn well that you don't want to go to the gym every day because that's just not you, and you ain't going to do it, don't set a New Year's resolution that I'm going to go to the gym every day and I'm going to get a six-pack, because you're setting yourself up to fail in advance, because you know damn well you're not going to do it. So why set that goal? It really is setting yourself up to fail. Instead, figure out, okay, if I want to be fitter, if I want to be healthier, what is it within my power, and what is it that I will commit to and I am willing to do, and then set a realistic goal. You could still end up with the six-pack, but not by necessarily going to the gym every day. You could do it through other forms. You could do exercise, you could play some sport, or you could do something that's going to get you there, but in a way that's going to work for you. So I think that's where the biggest thing we fail at is we don't put enough time into that thought process, into that reflection about what's gonna be the path, so that we can sustain that motivation. Because this is what he's talking about: sustaining motivation, attention and effort towards what you desire. If you're not going to make that effort, if you're not going to sustain it, don't set yourself up to fail. So that's my thoughts on it anyway. But he says, when he's talking about people who are successful and who do achieve things they want, even in chaos and turmoil, they meet struggle with intense and spirited joy. So we know that we're going to face challenges and obstacles, whatever we decide we're going to do. We can either let them get us down, or we can go, well, there it is. I expected something like that would happen. I knew when I set that goal to diet that someone would walk in with chocolate cake. That's just the way it goes. You know, it happens every time. We should not focus on the shadow in the corner and be so foolish as to miss the fact that the shadow exists only because the room is illuminated. So without the light, we wouldn't know the darkness, would we? Isn't that interesting? I mean, that's really quite existential when you think about space and us being here and all these planets giving off light. And when you look at the stars, that could be a star that isn't even there anymore. The light's shining from it from thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands, millions of years ago, and the light's not the planet's not even there anymore, but the light's still coming. Wow, that's mind-blowing. Okay, so let us be more appreciative and thankful each day. And he comes up with a whole list of things to be thankful for in here. Like, you know, shall I read them out? No, there's too big a list there. I'm just thankful you're all here and get to talk through this, and I'm thankful we've got this book, because I think it's a powerful book, and if it's one of those books you can go back to time and again as well, and it can lift you when you're going through some challenges too, because he really has got that power to motivate people. But I love this one. Let me be thankful for the blank slate that comes with each morning. Isn't that true? That's the one that just leapt out at me out of this long list of things to be thankful for. There is that we have so much to be thankful for. And if you, I remember going on a course a few years ago, and that was one of the things they made us do, was to start writing down every day at least 3 things to be thankful for. And you can write different things. It might be the same thing you wrote yesterday. That's okay. But you could come up with 3 things that have occurred to you in your daily interactions. You know, the person smiled at you in the petrol station, you know, thank you for people smiling at me, or thank you for petrol, or thank you for not putting up the price of petrol, or thank you for the fact that I've got a car to put petrol in. There's all sorts of things you could go on and be thankful for, or not. It's up to you, isn't it? So what are you noticing? That's a good challenge, actually, is to think in the next week, just going forward the next fortnight. Let's start with today. What am I going to be thankful for today? What am I going to notice that I've been taking for granted? Especially, that's a big thing. We all take so much for granted. I was watching a program last night that was a news bulletin. There was one about the drought in Europe, and how the Rhine has sunk so low, the water level's so low, that now the ships are struggling to get down the Rhine. In certain parts, they're really, the barges are really struggling to navigate down the river. Well, if they can't get there, those barges might be, for a lot of them, for instance, carrying coal to run the power stations. And they're actually having to either reduce the weight on the ship to lighten the load, so that the displacement is not so great of the ship, or they're having to do that either so that it can navigate the channels, but at the same time they might have to lighten it so much that it becomes unviable, unprofitable for that ship to go down the river, because it's just not going to have enough load at the other end to make the whole thing worthwhile doing. And so something as simple as that, we take it for granted that the river is a certain depth and that all these ships can go down the river. We take it for granted in Australia that you know, there's sunshine all the time, but we're not having a bushfire every day. You know, well, like where we live, we're surrounded by trees. There's a lot to be grateful for. What you just got to think, what am I just taking for granted every day that's around me? Your partner, your food on your table, clothes on your back, you know, the waggy tail of my dog when I come down the stairs in the morning. There's so many things that you could say. Just the fact that we've got clean running water, that we've got our health. When you start thinking about it, there is lots and lots to be thankful for. One exercise you could try is to keep a gratitude jar, and you get a little slip of paper and you write down something to be grateful for today, and then you pop it in the jar, and you, at the end of the year, you open the jar and tip all these bits of paper out and go through and read them all. It's fascinating. You'll see how many things that come up that you are grateful for, and some of them could be really bizarre, outlandish things, you know, but so you see certain things that are repeated. Like you might be grateful for your partner. I know Coralie will obviously be grateful for Kevin, and she'd be writing that down every day. And you'll tip that out, and you'd be going, yes, I'm grateful. There he is again. Look, Kevin's come up 14 times this year. It might be 365 times. It might be once, or he might not be there at all. And you go, hang on. I'm joking. So there's a lot of things we can be grateful for that we might not really think about. It's there. We take things for granted. We're all guilty of that. So let's be grateful. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much joy and gratitude am I bringing to this moment right now? Well, we're all looking pretty joyful, I think, and I'm grateful for that. So there you go. That was chapter 5, the declaration that we shall practice joy and gratitude. It is a thing to practice. It is a thing to actually remember to do. And it's easy not to do it. Too easy. Anything anyone wants to add to that chapter?
A thing that occurred to me yesterday driving is that, you know, someone cuts you off or whatever, and you get grumpy at that person. But there's hundreds of other drivers on the road who you just get along with, and everything's fine.
That's a really good point.
Hundreds.
That's a really good point, Coralie. A really good point. Because we focus on that one person that's annoyed us, don't we?
Mm.
So easy to do that. That's a really good point. Well done. I remember years ago, I used to be very involved in the Aero Club in Jersey, where I grew up and I learned to fly. And we used to do barbecues every year for the visiting air crew. We used to have this Battle of Britain air display. And the British Air Force had a team of aerobatic pilots called the Red Arrows. And they were absolutely phenomenal. You know, they used to do, I think the equivalent in America might be the roulettes or something like that. They used to do these aerobatic displays. And, you know, maybe 7 or 9 aircraft would be flying in formation and doing loops and everything. And 2 would go off around the bay and then come past, and they would do this crossover where they'd be like closing past each other. And I remember chatting to one of these pilots who did that bit where the 2 planes cross past each other. Their closing speed is something like 900 miles an hour, whatever that is in kilometers an hour. I don't know, it's about 1.6 kilometers so you work it out. It's fast. There's a dot there in the distance, and suddenly it's gone past you, right? These guys practice this, otherwise they get it wrong and crash into each other. So they obviously practice it, but they said you have to trust that person implicitly with your life, because if they get it wrong, you're both cactus, right? And he said, but you know what? We spend day after day, hour after hour in each other's company, eating together, chatting together. We're you know, team. We're doing these displays all over the world. We're in each other's pockets. We're living in each other's pockets. I trust that person implicitly. He said, but you drive down a freeway and there's a guy on the other side of the road coming the other way, and you have no idea anything about that person, and yet you trust them implicitly that you're going to drive there and they're going to drive there, and you drive past each other. And I thought, wow, so what you just said there, Coralie, just reminded me of that conversation. You know, it might not be 900 kilometers an hour or whatever the speed is that they're doing it, but you think of that, the closing speed on 2 cars driving down the road in opposite directions. It's pretty fast, isn't it? And we just assume that person's going to stay on that side of the road. We take it for granted. So yes, great point, Coralie. A really, really good point. Why do we focus on the one person that's annoyed us on the road, and not be grateful for all the other people who allowed us to drive and safely get to our destination. Excellent. Well done.
Does it give us more of a charge, you know, to be all grumpy and angry than if we just sort of feel la la?
I don't know. Does it give you more of a charge? That's a good question.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's more sort of.
Do you want something to be angry at, Coralie? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe I do. That's terrible. No, don't.
Is it redirected? It's, you know, you're annoyed because Kevin's put the thing in the wrong place in the kitchen and you've told him 27
Very
times.
annoying.
So instead you're going to take it out on that person on the road who's annoyed you. Oh, that's funny, isn't it? We can carry, like, isn't it funny how you can decide I'm in a grumpy mood and nothing's going to shake me out of it. I'm going to carry on being grumpy until you catch yourself and then you realize what an idiot I'm being and laugh at yourself. Oh, maybe that's just me. Okay. All right. Next chapter. We shall not break integrity. You've got to keep moving because we're running out of time. First, say to yourself what you would be and then do what you have to do. I would be a six-pack super fit. No, I'm not. We're not going to go there again. I'm not going to that gym. I hate the gym. Okay. It is time, however, to remind ourselves that today's thoughts and actions become our legacy. That was in orange, by the way, just so you know. Today's thoughts and actions. So it all adds up, doesn't it? It's not just where we've got to today isn't just from one decision. It's from a million decisions. You know, if you were to say, let's use that car analogy again. If you had an accident, you can go, that idiot driver, if they hadn't have turned left when I turned right or whatever, we wouldn't have had that accident, right? But you think back from there. Now, how far back do you want to go? If I hadn't have decided to learn to drive in the first place, I wouldn't even be in that position. If I hadn't have chosen to emigrate from Jersey to Australia, I wouldn't even be here. I wouldn't have had that accident. So how far back do you want to go in the decision-making process that led you to that being in that moment today, in that situation that you're choosing to blame somebody else for? Ah, yeah, there's the thing, isn't it? So we're all involved, you know, like we can blame everybody else, or we can actually think, well, I played a part in that too.
There's an awesome Doctor Who episode with David Tennant and Catherine Tate. And basically the whole world is completely different because of some magical thing that happens. And Catherine's in the car and she turns left instead of right in like one point in her life. And that's exactly it. It's like her whole life changed because she changed direction in the car.
That reminds me of that movie Sliding Doors. Do you remember Sliding Doors?
I didn't watch that one.
Oh,
but I did watch The Butterfly Effect the other day.
Yes, that's a very good one too, isn't it? Who was in that? Was it Ashton?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well worth watching if you haven't seen it. The Butterfly Effect. It's that, you know, that concept of, well, it was in this case it was a butterfly flaps its wings in one part of the world. There's a ripple effect right the way around the world. Yeah. Sliding Doors. You've got to watch that movie. You'll love it. It's a chick flick, isn't it? But you know, I enjoyed it. Must be my feminine side. You either get, this girl either gets on the train or she doesn't, or the guy gets on the train. I mean, which one was now? It's a long time since I've seen it. I have to watch it again actually. Do you make that decision to catch the train and get through the door and get onto the train? But if you don't, your whole life's different from that point on. So exactly what you just said, the Doctor Who example. We're all making those decisions all the time. And we can choose to be grateful for where we're at and the decisions that we've made, or we can choose to let the things annoy us. But remember that we played that part because we made that decision and lots of other decisions along the way.
I
So,
just try to remember the lessons I learned. When I have a decision, it's like, oh, I wish I hadn't made that, and instead I'm just being grateful for the lessons I learned from doing it.
I read somewhere else, and I think it might have been Andrew Matthews' book. He's brilliant. He's a cartoonist. If you haven't seen his stuff, you've got it. That's another book we've got to cover because it's on my top list there. Being Happy by Andrew Matthews. Fantastic cartoonist. I love the way a cartoonist can draw a picture that says, you know, they say a picture says 1,000 words. And yeah, it's very much about that kind of what we were just talking about. I've gone off on a tangent there. What did you just say before that?
Being grateful for the lessons instead of
The
going,
lessons,
well, that was
thank
a really
you.
bad
That's it.
decision. Yeah.
Yes, the lessons. Because what Andrew Matthews said was that if we don't learn the lesson that the universe is trying to teach us, it keeps throwing situations at us again until we get the lesson. Now, if you think back, one that springs immediately to mind for me was a girl that used to work for me back in my supermarket days, and I was deputy store manager. She was cashier, so she would spend a lot of time in the office chatting with me while she was doing the cashing up the tills. And she quite often would come into work with a black eye. And it turned out, of course, it was her boyfriend was bashing her. And I said, "What are you doing with this guy? Get rid of him. You know, why are you putting up with that?" "Oh, it was my fault. I caused it." I said, how was it your fault?" "Oh, well, I wind him up, and she was smarter than him. So they'd be having an argument, and she could always outthink him and always come up with a smart ass comment. And she knew exactly what buttons to press that she would win the argument because she had a really sort of sarcastic, because she's very, very intelligent. He would lose his temper because he couldn't argue with her, so he'd just punch her. So she would end up with a black eye. And I was just like, "Why are you putting up with this?" And it was, "Oh, well, it was my fault. I provoked him. I knew that he was going to react, and I just kept pushing the button." But how many times you hear of a girl who's like that, who then finally breaks away from that guy? What happens next? She goes and gets another guy that does exactly the same. And this is just one example. I'm not, focusing on. I'm not saying that all women do this, or don't quote me on that. Like, don't take it out of context. I'm just saying that we repeat the lesson very often until we learn. Hang on a minute. It's actually not okay to put up with that. Why am I allowing myself, or why am I not valuing myself enough to think that I deserve better than this? And that's quite a common theme, whether it's the black eye or something else. In what area in your life are you allowing yourself to keep getting hit with that lesson and not taking notice of it and going, "Hang on a minute, I need to change this here. I need to do something different. Why am I putting up with that? Why is this coming back at me again?" Because you didn't learn. You didn't pick up on the lesson that the universe was trying to teach you. Excuse me a sec, I've got to just blow my nose. I'll do it off camera. Look at that, I'm back and nose is blown and no one even knew that it happened. So it didn't happen. There we go. The tree falls in the forest and no one's there. Did the tree fall at all? So let us aim to be our highest selves, keeping our character and values intact, meeting every situation with solid integrity and generous humanity. Do we stop and ask ourselves, hang on, am I being a DH here, or am I acting as my best self, my best version of myself? So it's a common theme again, is this concept of being the observer of yourself, stepping outside yourself and imagining you're looking down on this situation and you're observing Coralie there at the petrol station. And, is Coralie going to smile at the person behind the counter, or is she going to be in a grumpy mood that day because Kevin didn't put the socks away in the sock drawer or something like that, So I'm just using the ongoing analogy. I'm not saying that Kevin would do it. But we can all choose, can't we? We can either we can catch ourselves and go, why am I letting myself be like this? Snap out of it.
It's not always easy though, is it, to snap out of
No.
it?
I didn't say it was. No, sometimes if you're really determined to stay in a grumpy mood, it can be quite hard to shake yourself out of it till you laugh at the ridiculousness of yourself and then go, why am I doing that? Is it helping me? Is it actually making me a better person? No. So, henceforth, this should be the 10th declaration. We shall ban all grumpiness. There you go. So, is it a value? Is it a value to not be grumpy? Is it a value to be courteous? Is it a value to be honest? Is it, or what are the values that we have? And again, do we take the time to think about that? Do we take the time to reflect and journal it and go, well, what are my values? What's important to me? And am I becoming unbreakable in those values? Solid and stable, courageous and certain, men and women of valor, worth, and character. Who am I and what is important to me? These contemplations may be two of the most important in life. You know, I only highlighted that in yellow, but it should have been in orange, really, shouldn't it? Because those are very profound questions. Who am I and what is important to me? Do we stop and think about that enough? Well, do we? Yes, no, maybe.
I've been trying to think about that lately, and it's been a major topic in my current world.
It has, hasn't it? Because you really focused in on that demons chapter.
Yeah.
Well done. Well, it's good. It's good that you're going. And this, if this book has provoked that for you, or you know, and motivated you to do that, then you've already got your money's worth. Absolutely. So when we become that observer of ourselves, we can ask this question: how would my best self view and respond to this situation? And I highlighted this bit. Now I have to ask myself, why is this significant that I've highlighted this? And it was about a man and his relations with his wife. I will be alert and attentive to her feelings. I will listen to her closely, and I will seek to be empathetic and supportive, even in times of crisis or conflict. And, you know, I'm reminded of the fact that Joe starts a lot of sentences with, "You're not listening to me." And I think that's a funny way to start a sentence, isn't it? I had to get my sort of daddish joke in there somewhere, didn't I? Yeah, so it's important, isn't it? Do we get so focused in on what we're doing and distracted? And you think, I asked myself this the other day. I thought, I don't know where I was, but I was just thinking about this. If I was on a first date with Joe now, would I be hanging on her every word? Probably.
Yeah.
I'd be going, wow, I've met this girl, she's amazing. And so where does that change to where you're like, oh, stop bothering me, I'm busy at the moment, I'll come back to you in a minute, you know, let me get this done instead. And I caught myself thinking about that, and I was like, you know, if we were on a first date now, I wouldn't be talking to her like that. I wouldn't be letting that happen. So it's good to remind ourselves this thing about gratitude again, even with the persons that your family, you might not be your partner, but might be other people around you, that you're taking them for granted and you're allowing the situation to occur where you're not treating them with the same respect and value that you would have done in the very beginning stages of a relationship. V.
I'm just curious because I am not in a relationship, and anyway, do you think that
You haven't got any black eyes?
part of the reason that we do that is, yes, we take people. I've never had a black eye from that kind of thing.
Good.
Do you think that part of it is because, yes, we take them for granted, but is part of it also because we think we know what they're going to say, or we think we know what is happening, instead of just being a little bit curious and taking everything as brand new?
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh dear, you know me too well.
No, it's a really good point. We do, don't we? We think we know that person inside out, and they know us inside out, and so it's like an old pair of slippers, isn't it? You become comfortable, and I don't sort of wake up in the morning and think, well, I wonder if Joe's going to break up with me today. Not that I ever really thought that when I was going out, but when you're going out as just dating, that commitment hasn't been made yet, has it? So there's that kind of Seth Godin talks about the tension of, will this work, won't it work? There is that kind of, oh, what if, does this person like me? Do I like that? You like exploring each other and exploring the nuances of the relationship. And I suppose, as was that whole saying, familiarity breeds contempt. Well, not contempt, but familiarity may breed complacency or taking someone for granted. So even just this simple thing of being grateful that that person's still in your life, it's a big thing.
I'm also thinking that instead of, because we think we know what they're going to say or where they're coming from, to maybe be asking more questions and be more curious, because we don't actually know. And it would be, I think it would be nice to be asked that, to even people that you do know, that you can't know where they're coming from or why they've made a decision. So just exploring that from a place of non-judgment and curiosity would breed a deeper relationship.
I think we should, when I do the editing of the video, we'll cut that little snippet out that you just said, and you can play it to all prospective boyfriends. Now, this is the test that you have to pass. This is your chocolate cake test. Yeah, brilliant. So if they don't do that, they're out. Yeah, that's a really good point. We do assume that we know people and we know how they're going to behave in a given situation. And I think that's when relationships break up, and I've had a couple of those, you remember that suddenly that person started behaving like their body had been taken over by an alien being, because this person was not behaving the way that you thought that they would. And that comes as a shock to you then. What do you mean you don't love me? You loved me yesterday. What's happened there? It's like almost a transformation of that person. Well, yeah, we probably didn't stop and ask enough of those questions. How do you really feel about that? Is that bothering you? What do you, why is this gazebo important to you? Which was the question I asked in the end. See, I got there. It took me a while, but I got there. All right, moving along, because we are running out of time. What tangible evidence of our creativity in life do we want to leave on this earth? Beyond our interactions with people, what things do we wish to give them or leave them? What do we want to be remembered for? And as a coach, that's one of the things that I quite often ask people when you're going through this sort of exploration stage of who am I, what am I doing, where am I going, why do I exist, is how would I like to be remembered? If I was to write my own epitaph, what would I want people to say about me at my funeral? And that's quite a confronting sort of exercise to do. If you haven't done it, try it. What would you like people to say about you? Because that is probably the best version of yourself. That's the thing you would like, that you'd want people to say, all the nice things about you. So if that's the case, are you being them? Are you being them today, right now, in this moment, right now, in this interaction with somebody, right now, in this petrol station or on the road when someone's cut you off in traffic? Are you being your best version of yourself? Or do you want people at the funeral to go, well, he's a bad-tempered driver. God, he was always whinging about driving and the people that used to cut him off in traffic. Is that what you want people to remember you for? Grumpy bugger, never put his socks in the sock drawer. Well, it's, what are the things that you'd like said at your funeral if you could be the observer? That is a Hollywood theme, isn't it? You go people turn up to their own funeral, and they're supposedly dead, and listen to what people are saying about them. I can't remember which movie that was. There's been a few movies that had that sort of thing happen, and it's quite a funny one, because are we being that person? Are we living up to those values? Too many people are failing to think of these questions, and so they're bartering away their integrity day by day in unfulfilling tasks. They are not working towards something real and meaningful, something they know will bring them joy and fulfillment. Whoa. But I was a little bit conflicted with that one, because today I'm going to be going out working in my cleaning business, because I don't have enough staff in my cleaning business at the moment. And so I could say to myself, am I working towards something real and meaningful, something I know is going to bring me joy and fulfillment? I'll go back to the Tony Robbins point there, that you can find meaning, or you can find joy and fulfillment in how you choose to look at it. So I could go, all right, I can get to a building and it's in a mess, and then when I leave, by the time I leave, I've cleaned it all up and it looks great. But that's not who I am and who I want to be. I want to be working on my coaching material and creating another online course and writing that next book. And instead, I'm here doing this cleaning. So what am I doing? So I can ask that question of myself, but at the same time, I can also go, but I am in this situation right now, and I'm here today doing this. So let's look for the gratitude in it. Let's look for the joy in it. How can I turn this around so that I actually find the meaning in it, that I can make this a joyful experience rather than something I have to go and do. And one simple way of doing that, I can't remember which book we covered so many books recently, is changing that little word. I have to go and do this, changing it to I get to go and do this. Can you remember, Coralie, which book that was in?
Was it the last one?
I can't remember now. But
yeah.
yeah.
Tony, is that
Yeah.
also your gym?
Thank you, V. Yes. Instead of going to the gym, I'm doing a cleaning workout.
Yeah, you get paid to go to the gym.
Thank you. Yes. So there's plenty of ways that I can look at it, and one of the little things that I like to do is, this seems to be happening to me a lot. Both my parents and Joe's parents love these little birds that we get in Western Australia called willy wagtails. And I don't know if you have them in America, I'm not sure, but this little willy wagtail is called that because it does this thing where it sort of turns like this, and its tail, it's like it's wagging its tail. So that's how they got the name. Well, every time I go to a bin area and I've got to put rubbish bins out, it seems like one of these willy wagtails always comes down and lands right next to me and starts fluttering away. And I quite often take a photograph of them and I'll send it to Joe. And so I'm out here doing this pretty shitty job, really. But hey, I just saw a willy wagtail. How cool is that?
I actually learnt the other week from a First Nations friend, an Aboriginal lady. She said that the willy wagtail represents someone who's passed over, who's looking out for you.
Yes, and so I thought that, yeah, thanks for that, because I do think it immediately reminds me of my parents, and my father used to say, if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. So that was his catchphrase, which is why my book that I wrote was called If Life's Worth Doing, It's Worth Doing Well. It's paraphrasing my father. So if you're going to be there doing that, then do the best you can, which also means then finding that meaning in it and not allowing you to get yourself grumpy about it, that you're stuck doing this thing, which when it was chucking it down with rain the other day was not so easy, I can tell you. Getting in and out of a car with wet trousers all day was not much fun, because the rain was raining sideways at one point. Anyway, moving along quickly. Thanks for that, V. Wisdom, the 6 practices of integrity, and we're nearly at the end. I'm conscious of time, so if you have to go, please go. No one will think badly of you. Wisdom is knowing who to be and what to do in a given situation. Virtue is acting on that wisdom. So we might know what to do, but are we doing it? So he comes up with these 6 practices of integrity, and I just love them. I'll just read them out quickly. Think before we act. Never commit to anything where we lack passion. Keep our word, one of the 4 agreements. Remember the Don Miguel Ruiz book? Always treat others with respect. Tell the truth and always favor action. If you can do those 6 things, you are maintaining your integrity. Now, he goes on to say the 7 temptations. I'll just get through these and then we can throw it open for discussion. So let us anticipate the situations in life that are most likely to cause us to break our integrity. So the seven challenges, if you like, are impatience, disappointment, desperation, aggression, hurt, loyalty, and power. Those are the 7 temptations. And then he tackles each one in turn and talks about them. We won't go through that now because we've run out of time, but to conclude it, when we're fighting that battle with our inner demons, as Wendy talked about before, and we are coming up with the things that will challenge us, and we're being faced with those 7 things that you just mentioned that get in the way, he concluded that our actions are creating a character that will stand tall or shrink into the darkness of regret. Great words again. Freedom and victory belong to those who remain strong and true despite temptation. So we will all have those things that will challenge our integrity. Can we maintain our integrity? That is our choice, moment by moment, day by day. Your thoughts, people?
I will tell you that when I first read the first paragraph, I first thought loyalty did not belong there. So I read his explanation and realized that's a very strong temptation, because fans and your
Oh, you're breaking up a bit there, Wendy.
workers. I said, because, can you hear me okay? People
It's in and out a bit, sorry.
that make you, yeah, I don't know if it's my internet or what, but if you can, you hear me okay now? Or
Yes,
am I still breaking up?
you come back, then it just dropped out for a bit there.
Yeah. So I was saying, you form bonds with people that can make you do something that you might not do. You may not do something outright wrong, but you might not mention something to other people because of your friendship. And I said, loyalty is a very strong one. But then I reversed that thought and I said, if they were loyal to me, they wouldn't put me in that position.
Yeah, good thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So loyalty is a 2-sided street.
Yes, good observation. Very much so. Yep.
I haven't read that bit yet, but it sounds more like it reads as misplaced loyalty.
Yes, I think that's what he's really saying there. In terms of it being a temptation, yeah, that could lead you astray or challenge your integrity, compromise your integrity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being loyal to the wrong people or the wrong things, the wrong beliefs, the wrong political party. There's a big one in America at the moment. Anyway, so get into that.
Yeah. Well, he talks about both sides, but he does say, like, you'll lie for your husband or your wife or your friends, and and pretty much he says throughout the whole book, pretty much, don't lie.
Yeah.
You know, lying's not, it comes back at you, and I really believe in that.
All right. So then what if you tell a white lie to help to not hurt a person's feelings?
Avoid having that conversation. You know, if you can't tell the truth, and you know, you need to not be in that conversation, because you can't be false. If somebody is wearing a dress that doesn't look nice, aren't you a better friend to say, it's a pretty dress, but it doesn't look as good on you as maybe it would someone else. I think you look better in red. It's all how you approach the conversation.
As a husband,
I know.
That question, does my bum look big in this? You are treading around minefields, I'm sure.
Well, I can tell you, being a woman, if she's asking you, she already knows.
Yeah. No, well, I think that's when you probably know you're in a comfortable relationship. I think yeah, you do already have an insight, don't you? Even me, if I go, does this color go with that? No, it doesn't. Or you're getting a second opinion to validate what you're already guessing anyway. You're right. But yeah, you do still have to be careful. It's quite funny that there's a lot of arguments happen over things like that. Maybe you don't have to be brutally honest. You can be subtly honest.
You could
Give a feedback sandwich.
Yes, B, well done. The old praise sandwich and feedback sandwich, very good. So say something nice, then say the horrible thing, then say something nice again to finish on.
Well, I try not to let people believe in something that's not true. So it's important to me that people go out as their best self. But I always say, this is only my opinion, and my opinion is not the last opinion. I have my own preferences in life.
Or you could throw it back and go, well, what do you think? Well, actually, I think my bum does look a bit big in this. Well, why don't you try the green one instead?
Exactly.
You look really good in that one.
But there, you have to have some confidence. I think somewhere they talk about, you have to have self-confidence. You have to have confidence in your relationships. And if people are coming to you because they're used to you telling the truth, you have to be that person for them.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's another key component of a successful relationship, is that you can rely on the other person's integrity. And that's where, when you talk about relationships that break up, what's the biggest thing that goes wrong is that you lose that trust. You lose trust in someone. And talking very often in fidelity, but trust that that person has got your best interests at heart, that what they're saying to you is, that they value you as a person, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, really, really interesting. We could do a whole session just on that. Any other thoughts on today that we've just covered before we close?
Something that Gary says all the time is with your values, knowing your core values.
Yep. Keeps
you in integrity. If you don't operate using your core values, what happens is that your self-esteem does decrease. So it's very much what Brendon's saying as well, is that, to keep your energy up and to keep your motivation, you need to be operating from integrity, using your core values. And making decisions for me is easy because I can just tap into them and go, I'm sorry, that's not what I'm going to do because it doesn't agree with my core values. Yep. Excellent. All right, well, my laptop's probably about to die any second. I just got that warning message come up. So that's a really great point there, V. Like everything that you do is a deposit in the integrity bank account, if you like, whereas everything where you break that integrity is a withdrawal. We say, use that analogy. Scrambling for my power thing that I forgot to plug in before the meeting started. Anyone else want to add anything else before we finish? Making lots of noise in the background. No? No. Well, just as I'm now recharging my laptop, I feel recharged from this morning's conversation, and with renewed integrity and renewed motivation and renewed commitment to my values, I shall head off into the day and make it a great day. How about you guys? You all going to do the same? Yes. Awesome. Yes. Well, we will cover the next 2 chapters next week. See you in the same place, same time.
Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.